Hello, I'm Paul Chek, and welcome to my next little mini-series titled Surviving in a Modern World, which is our theme this week at the Chek Institute. I wanted to begin our series by talking about a few concepts that aren't well understood by the general public, but need to be if we are to maintain our health, our well-being, and our vitality, and enjoy doing something in life other than spending money on doctor's visits and medical drugs, etc. So today what I wanted to do is give you a basic overview of the Tai Chi principle as it relates to surviving in a modern world. Now I'm going to begin this series by sharing something that most people don't really think about or aren't aware about, and that is that it is because of death that we can experience life. The Tai Chi symbol really can be very, very effectively used to explain, the life-death concept. Here you see I've drawn the Tai Chi symbol as somebody's head, since that's where we make our choices. What I want to do is point out here that when you're thinking, when you're breathing, remember when you're breathing, you're bringing in oxygen. Oxygen oxidizes. It is used by the metabolic systems to break things down and convert them into energy. So oxygen, in this sense, is quite a destructive molecule. We use it to control, in a controlled environment called metabolism, or digestion, assimilation, metabolism, and elimination, because all of those things are powered by metabolism, which requires oxygen. So think about metal. Metal rusts when exposed to air. It shows you that there's a corrosive nature to oxygen. So we have also got the fire principle. When we are metabolizing, we're generating heat. And when we're moving, thinking, we're always doing things. So we're utilizing resources. About 2 million red blood cells die every second in your body. Your surface skin cells turn over about every 3 days. Your bone cells turn over every approximately 3 weeks. And every single cell in your body is replaced on an annual basis. So what you're seeing is the death cycle must be adequately supported by the life cycle in order for you to maintain your shape, your form, and a balanced state of consciousness, because your consciousness itself is the physical product. Consciousness at the level of your brain is the physical product of the interaction of biochemicals such as neurotransmitters. Those neurotransmitters, for all intents and purposes, annihilate each other, creating an electrical charge that creates the flow that you sense as your sentient awareness of yourself. Without that electrical charge, you couldn't move, breathe, or do anything. Now consider that recent research shows that the average person thinks 68,000 thoughts a day, of which 90% are negative. So if a person's thinking 68,000 thoughts a day, one, we have a huge amount of chemical activity going on in the nervous system, and that's consuming catecholamines. That's consuming a wide variety of vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, enzymes, cofactors, and resources, because remember, thought cannot occur without the warmth of metabolism or fire. Dead people are cold and they don't carry conversations on with you. Yet if you overheat the system, it begins to break down. If you freeze the system, you slow the fire principle down too much and thought again ceases. So if you overcook yourself, first your mind starts going faster and faster, and then it starts to break down. If you underactivate yourself, you're too yin, you get too cold and sluggish inside, and you end up at the same place, a mind that doesn't work. If you go exercise, you're breaking tissue down. If you're working in your garden, you're breaking tissue down, and all those processes of movement come by way of neurohormonal activity, which again means there's a massive consumption of resources. So if we take a minute now and just summarize the fact that we're alive, and I can stand here and talk to you, means that I have maintained some level of order in a biological system, and that the order I maintain is reflected in my shape, my consciousness, my vitality, my mental clarity, and my capacity to do work. So the more balanced the force of anabolic or tissue regeneration and catabolic tissue destruction is, the more potential power I have to both break myself down through athletic endeavors, through thinking endeavors, through staying up late at night if I want to, etc. And then I have the capacity to bounce back in, rest, recover, and rebalance. So you go yang during the day, and then you got to go yin during the night. And from that point of balance, you have enough water to control your fire and enough fire to warm your water, and we call that living. So now when you look at the diagram here, I want to point out a few key elements about the yang energy and about the yin energy so that you understand that these two basic energies create everything in the universe and you. The yin is the feminine energy. The yang is the masculine energy. The yin draws into itself. In the universe, you could say that yin represents emptiness and yang represents fullness, although everything yang is made of yin as well. But as a general description, yang is a representative energy. Yin is a collective energy. So it brings things in. So if we look at the qualities of the male force of yang, heat rises. So if you take a piece of bread and soak it in water, it'll suck all that water into itself. That's yin. If you then put it on the hot stove under a fire, with a fire under it, it will expand the water and it'll expand the air and the gases and the bread, and it'll break that bread down progressively till you've got ash in the pan, and that ash turns out to be the seed of yin. If you put ash on the earth, it improves the quality of soil in many instances. So you see, what creates death actually fuels life. But we must maintain those things in balance. Okay? So the qualities of the male masculine energy are that it radiates its energy outward centrifugally, just like the sun, outward in every direction. It's the principle of increasing heat, fire, and yang energy makes everything go faster. When you get hotter and hotter, everything goes faster. Your heart beats faster to cool you. If you're exercising and you're getting hot, you got to deliver the resources quicker. Your thermoregulatory system has to have more water as you make more heat. So you see, the yin-yang balance always has to be effectively regulated or you start to die. Okay? The masculine energy in the body is most well aligned with and expressed through the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight, flight, or freeze nervous system. So if you're fighting with yourself inside, fighting with others, fighting with a bunch of stinking thinking, fighting with your boss, your parents, your family, your friends, your lovers, if you're training, exercising, anything that elevates your heart rate, your respiratory rate, decreases your capacity to digest effectively, and dries your tongue out, is an example of elevating yang energy. So the more yang energy you have throughout the day, the more sympathetically activated you are. And the sympathetic system, we'll call that my right hand. The parasympathetic or yin system, we'll call it the left hand, are working in functional opposition at all times. So if you're drinking 5-hour energy, eating too much sugar, eating the wrong kinds of foods, and overstimulating yourself, and have a head full of stinking thinking, your sympathetic yang system will suppress your anabolic yin system, so you'll keep the death force going faster and faster and faster, and to the degree that your death force is out of cycle, out of balance with your yin life force, you will start to die. Now, we're always dying, because dying's part of living. But you will accelerate the rate at which you die relative to the rate at which you can regenerate life. So the sympathetic system spends energy and resources, and it divides potential energy. And if you divide your energy too much, you get death. Think of the sun. radiating its core energy in every direction. So the potential power of the sun is radiating in every direction, which divides its energy. The earth principle, as relatively functionally opposite, draws energy into itself. So your sun energy is useful because the earth draws it into itself, and it goes right through your skin and makes vitamin D and gets you all excited and all sorts of cool stuff. So now that we understand the male force, let's look quickly at the female force. It's centripetal inward. Just like if you drop water on the surface of the earth, it tries to go toward the center of the earth. Again, if you put a piece of bread in a pan of water, it'll absorb the water and it will swell from the inside out. So a woman, when she gets pregnant, draws her resources inward and swells from the inside out. She's making life. But if she works too hard, doesn't eat well, takes drugs that are damaging for the system, has challenging, unhealthy, unproductive relationships, she will maintain a level of death force that will stop the fetus from growing and developing naturally. Think about that when you look at the rate of infant deaths and childhood diseases right now, even in newborns. Okay? So the inward motion of yin relates to water, cooling, and slowing. It's aligned with the parasympathetic system, which is the digest, eliminate, rebuild, and repair system, which is the functional antagonist of the sympathetic system. It's the energy of accumulation, and it relates to our ingestion, eating, and drinking resources that are congruent with our needs. It multiplies potential. So just as the sun radiates its potential energy outward, the feminine energy takes all the food that you've eaten and the water you've drinking and the rest that you've given yourself, and it brings it into a center. So the fact that a woman can make a body inside of her is an example of the multiplication of energy, which is yin, that must happen to produce life. So life then really emerges as a balance of the masculine warming principle, which gives us consciousness, thought, and movement, and the yin principle, which gives us cooling and centering energy and regenerative energy. This energy is more like the plants per se, and this is more like the animals. Rumi says God sleeps in the minerals, dreams in the plants, moves in the animals, and realizes himself in man. Aho, here I am, ho, woo! And this is what you've got to understand to survive in a modern world, because a modern world is far more yang fire than it is yin cooling and regenerative capacity. So your first step in our first part of the series for surviving in a modern world is to remember that the balance of the life force yin and the death force yang, as I'm presenting it here, is what gives you a vital, healthy body and a stable mind, and imbalances, of which yang excess or fire is the most common in our culture, will blow the water out of you and turn you into ash. And if you don't get planted in some good soil with good water soon, you will be dead and be of no value to your friends and family for contribution. And you will miss out all the opportunities to watch all my great video clips. Yeah, baby! Okay, so now that we have the basics, we understand we got to balance the death force, which gets bigger and bigger in cities and less out in the country. We now can begin to look into some of the other things I'd like to share with you, but meditate on this today and watch to see how much time you spend killing yourself versus bringing yourself alive, and know that many people have spent billions of dollars to program you to do that, and they don't want guys like me telling you how to take care of yourself. So here I am. I'll see you soon in our next section.